Good morning, America. Breaking news this morning. Another surge in the swine flu across America. A school assistant principal dies. We asked the CDC if the illness is getting worse. Earthquake near downtown Los Angeles. A moderate hit, but millions shaken in their homes. The Great Divide, President Obama facing anti-abortion protesters at Notre Dame and asking for open minds and a common ground. How old is too old to have a baby? A 66-year-old is making history this morning. America's one-time oldest mom joins us live to tell us if she'd do it again.
And the filly did it!
And that super filly, we drop in on Rachel Alexandra and the man who took the girl to the big finish. And here we go on a whole new week. Good morning, America. Diane Sawyer with Robin Roberts. It's Monday, May 18th, 2009. And as more and more people are contracting the swine flu, we have some questions this morning. Is the virus changing? Is it becoming more intense?
We asked this with the school assistant principal in New York City, Mitchell Weiner, dying last night from the illness, shocking teachers, students. His family says he did not have a pre-existing condition that would have made him more vulnerable.
So to tell us the latest on what's happening, let's go to ABC's Dan Harris. He's in Queens this morning, and he has the news from there. Dan?
Diane, good morning to you. We're outside Susan B. Anthony Intermediate, a school that is not only closed, but also in mourning. Take a look at the writing on the front door, R.I.P. Mr. Weiner. That refers, of course, to Mitchell Weiner, the assistant principal here, who has become the first fatality of the outbreak here in New York City. Assistant Principal Mitchell Weiner died Sunday night after being in the hospital for 5 days. A hospital spokesman has been quoted as saying that Weiner was totally overwhelmed by the swine flu, on a ventilator, slipping in and out of consciousness, and being treated with an experimental drug. He was 55 years old.
This person may have had other health problems earlier. We're trying to identify that.
However, his family has said the only underlying condition he had was gout.
Gout would not affect the severity of swine flu.
Weiner is the 6th person to die in this country and the first in the outbreak here in New York City. An outbreak that health officials now tell ABC News is spreading more rapidly than the seasonal flu. Despite an ebb in news coverage and public fear recently, the swine flu continues to march across the world. Today, Japanese health officials said the number of cases surged to 120 over the weekend. Also today, the World Health Organization is holding its annual meeting where it will discuss whether a swine flu vaccine should be made and whether to raise the global alert level.
One of the concerns when you have repeated media coverage is that people get turned off, and there's a risk of complacency in the face of true terrible disease in Mexico and real deaths. I think we have to really be on guard against complacency.
To put this in perspective, however, Mitchell Weiner is the only person here in New York City to become seriously ill with the swine flu, and the vast majority of cases across the country have been mild. Robin, back to you.
All right, Dan, so let's get some answers now. Joining us from Atlanta is Dr. Ann Schuchat, Acting Deputy Director of the Centers for Disease Control. And thank you so much for joining us. And we want to talk a little bit about Mr. Mitchell's case. His family said, as you heard, that he had no real serious illness. He was only 55 years old. So, doctor, what can we learn possibly from his case?
Well, you know, the first thing to say is that every death is tragic, and our hearts really go out to the community in question. A community leader at a school like that, it's just very sad. Influenza, even seasonal influenza, can kill people. Some 36,000 people each year die from that. And we know that this new H1N1 virus is also capable of killing people. Of course, there's a mix of people with underlying illness who may be at higher risk, but we do think that this virus is capable of causing very severe disease, and that's one of the reasons that we're taking it so seriously.
There are 11 school closings here in the New York City area. We want to put up a map to show how it is continuing to spread across the U.S., and we understand that there's a new outbreak in Japan as well. So is it possibly getting worse?
You know, I think we're seeing a continuation of a pattern that we've seen from the beginning. The virus is quite transmissible. It's probably more transmissible than seasonal influenza because so many people are not immune to it. With the seasonal flu strains, many of us have immunity and then others get vaccinated. But with this new strain, the world really hasn't seen it before this year, so most of the population is susceptible. The transmissibility is then leading to these outbreaks, particularly in schools. And as the virus arrives in new communities, I do expect more clusters, and unfortunately, I do expect more deaths.
Yeah, unfortunately, indeed. You talked about the schools, and was it about 10 days ago that the CDC said even if someone at school has this virus, there's no need to close the school, but yet we're seeing more school closings.
You know, we've updated our guidance on school dismissals over the course of the outbreak as we learned more. And we've always said it's very important for local authorities to take the decisions about whether or not to dismiss schools. It's very reasonable for local authorities to dismiss schools when a high proportion of the children or the faculty and staff are ill and it's just not practical to hold classes. But our primary strategy, absent that, is to encourage people who are ill to stay home and to not come to school to spread the illness. It's really important for the local authorities to gauge the situation and make a recommendation, because we're trying to balance the harm that this virus may cause from the interruptions of school dismissals.
Well, certainly. What signs are you looking for to let you know that we're possibly out of the woods here with this?
You know, right now we're less focused on the number of cases than the trends or patterns that we see. We're monitoring illness in the doctor's offices in a big network across the country and emergency room visits and so forth to understand whether some communities are out of the woods and others are seeing upticks. I think, unfortunately, although it's late in the year, we are still seeing ongoing transmission in a number of places. So we're optimistic that as the season warms, case counts will come down. But then we'll be really closely monitoring the southern hemisphere where this disease may take hold and cause more problems this summer.
That could be an indication. Dr. Schuchat, thank you very much for your time this morning. We certainly do appreciate it. Have a good day. Thank you.
And we turn now, Robin, to President Obama talking to two sides of a national divide. It was the commencement speech at the University of Notre Dame, Catholic University, and the controversy came to a head Sunday over the conflict between the president's pro-choice views and the pro-life teachings of the Catholic Church. Senior White House correspondent Jake Tapper is live in Washington with more. Jake?
Good morning, Diane. Well, President Obama's pending Supreme Court nominee pick will likely bring the issue of abortion, which he has tried to put on the back burner, front and center, and he got a dress rehearsal for this passionate debate over the weekend when he addressed the graduates of Notre Dame University.
Notre Dame's decision to give an honorary degree to a president who supports abortion rights enraged many on the Catholic University's campus. President Obama confronted the controversy head-on.
While we know that the views of most Americans on the subject are complex and even contradictory, the fact is that at some level, the views of the two camps are irreconcilable.
The camp seemed irreconcilable outside the arena.
Abortion on demand and without apology.
Abortion is murder! Thou shalt not kill!
But inside, though some empty chairs and graduation caps with baby footprints represented protests, generally the president was warmly received. A small handful of hecklers were drowned out by the crowd chanting, "We are ND, Notre Dame." The president preached common ground.
So let us work together to reduce the number of women seeking abortions. Let's reduce unintended pregnancies. Let's make adoption more available. Let's provide care and support for women who do carry their children to term. When we open up our hearts and our minds to those who may not think precisely like we do or believe precisely what we believe, that's when we discover at least the possibility of common ground.
The crowd was respectful.
I know there's a lot of controversial views about what he stands for and everything, but it's also the President of the United States.
But clearly many disagree.
There was no common ground on slavery, no common ground on the Holocaust, and abortion is one of those issues. There is no common ground.
Originally, President Obama had not planned on discussing this issue at such length, but he decided to seize the opportunity of the controversy to talk about common ground. Diane?
Okay, Jake, you mentioned the Supreme Court nomination and the fact that this issue is sure to be front and center when that comes down the pike. When does it come? When do we get the nominee?
Well, we're told not to expect it in the next coming days, although it could happen this week, not likely, but certainly in the next couple weeks. We're told that the final candidates are in the final vetting process, although President Obama has not yet met with any of them, which is, of course, a key moment. Diane.
Okay, Jake, our thanks to you. Heading over to Chris Cuomo now for the other headlines in the morning. Chris.
Good morning, Diane. Good morning, Robin. Good morning, everyone. Right now, they're cleaning up and bracing for more aftershocks in Los Angeles after a moderate earthquake. The 4.7 quake was centered 10 miles southwest of downtown near Lenox, but it reverberated as far south as Long Beach, and that's where Brian Rooney will join us this morning. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Chris. Most of the shaking was felt, or at least more severely, here in the coastal communities south of the Los Angeles airport. This is a drapery shop behind me in Long Beach where the windows cracked and broke and fell out. But other windows next door were perfectly fine. The damage was isolated and scattered according to how the shock waves traveled through the ground. There was a Starbucks that suffered some damage and somebody was taken to the hospital. The Los Angeles International Airport shut down its runways for a while just to check and see if there was some damage. Now here was what a few people had to say about what they felt last night.
It was a joke, it was a joke. We didn't know what it was, but, then we found out that it was an earthquake.
It shook really hard, and then there was a second shock. It was, I don't know if it was worse than the first or the same, but it was pretty hard. We just ran out the door.
It was not a violent jolt, Chris. It was a sustained shaking that went on for about 10 or 15 seconds. The picture on my living room wall was rattling. There was a perceptible aftershock afterwards in the next 10, 15 minutes, and the seismologists say to expect more. There always are more aftershocks in the days to follow. Chris?
All right, we'll be waiting for that. Brian, thank you very much. Another concussive event for you. A massive explosion ripped through an oil refinery in Delaware overnight, sending flames high into the night sky. The blast at the Sunoco refinery could be felt for miles, but there were no reported injuries and no evacuations. President Obama welcomes Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House today, and they have plenty of tough issues to discuss. Among them, Iran's nuclear program and the question of Palestinian statehood. Netanyahu has insisted Iran's nuclear plans must be reined in before any peacemaking with the Palestinians can move forward. 2 astronauts from Shuttle Atlantis are taking their final spacewalk at this hour, hoping to finish repairs on the Hubble telescope. A stubborn bolt caused them to fall behind schedule Sunday. If all goes well this morning, they'll release the telescope tomorrow, and it should keep working for another 5 to 10 years. Good job in space. And finally, a little coffee news for you. You're getting there right now, pouring that second cup, feeling guilty about it. Don't. The latest research finds the much maligned beverage may actually protect against diabetes, liver cancer, cirrhosis, and Parkinson's. It turns out, listen to this, most of the negative studies based on coffee drinkers who also smoked. That is the news behind the news. 7:13. That's a big one. Sam Champion over there, guzzle, guzzle,
Picture of health. Good morning, Sam.
Goigle, goigle.
I'm just saying, nothing wrong with a little caffeine. Doctors, agree, apparently. Let's get to the boards. 1 or 2 things going on. We're going to watch this low form in South Florida and kind of crawl around over the next 2 days. That means some heavy rain, widespread spread flooding, and also some rough surf right along the coastline. The heat's back on. This will be like the 3rd day in a row of record heat going on. Vegas, by the way, 13 days above 100 degrees. May, 13 days above 100 degrees. And the frost and freeze watches and warnings into the Northeast today. Another night of cold air. You warm up by the end of the week. That's the weather around the nation. Your local weather, just 30 seconds away. But first, here's this morning's Selected Cities brought to you by Allbrand.
I was always sluggish and tired. Now I feel full of energy. My body feels better than it has in years.
My digestive tract is happy.
Kellogg's All-Bran puts natural wheat bran fiber to work for you. In just 10 days, All-Bran cleanses your system to help your body work a little better, leaving you feeling lighter, happier, and more energetic. The Kellogg's All-Bran 10-Day Promise. Put us to work for you.
Good morning, everyone. We start out the day with temperatures in the 50s. Up to about 66 by noon. It will still be a sunny day, just not as warm as over the weekend. up to 78 degrees rather than the 84 we saw both on Saturday and Sunday. Here's a look at your 3-day forecast. We have some rain coming in tonight. Should start after around 11 p.m. here to turning into showers for you for your Tuesday with temperatures in the 60s. And then as you can see, Wednesday looks dry. Much of your week could end up being dry as we get into the weekend.
More weather in the next half hour. Robin?
All right, Sam. Now, Alexandra the Great, Rachel Alexandra, the phenomenal filly, becoming the first female in 85 years to win the Preakness Stakes. She came for the 13th spot, and she held up, mind that bird. It was across that track. Stephanie Sy has a story for you.
And the filly did it!
How does it feel to be beaten by a girl?
Rachel Alexandra has defeated the Kentucky Derby winner.
Ask the 12 colts who Rachel Alexandra left in the dust on the way to winning the Preakness Stakes.
She's the best filly in the country, best horse in the country.
The lone filly in the field had doubters, but in just over 1 minute and 55 seconds, she proved a point that is echoing throughout the sports world.
You can make a strong case this is the most significant victory for a girl against the boys in all of sports. It's that big of a deal.
She was the first filly to win the Preakness